Hello, welcome back to NWT, Nerds with Telescopes. I'm Jermaine, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the process of motorizing this Dobsonian telescope. This particular telescope is a Skywatcher Flex Tube 250p, and it does have a 10-inch mirror. This is a truss design, and that's why it's called Flex Tube, because it doesn't have a solid tube, and this does collapse down, and it saves space and it saves a little bit of weight. If you're not familiar with what a Dobsonian telescope is, this is basically a Newtonian telescope that was invented by Isaac Newton, but John Dobson took a Newtonian telescope and put it on a base like this, and this allows you to move it side to side and up and down. So with these two movements, you can track anything across the sky, and it's really cost effective, and it's the most cost effective way to get a very large aperture like this for an amateur. If you wanted a regular Newtonian on a equatorial mount that was this size, it would be crazy expensive. So that's the cool part about that. You can just move this around as needed. But to be honest, guys, I'm somewhat new to this. This is kind of my second year, but my first serious year of really getting into astrophotography and astronomy. And I'm not very good at finding targets. And last night, Saturn was in full opposition, and I was able to find it, and I was able to kind of keep nudging it across as I was watching and looking. I tried to take a few pictures, but it's yet to be seen if that's going to work out well. But anyway, what I wanted to do is turn this into a motorized. I did buy this on Facebook Marketplace for $450. It was a pretty good deal because these go for about $1,100 brand new. And then they do have a motorized version that's from Skywatcher, and it's like $1,600 and maybe a little more. So both of those options is not really a great option for me. So I decided to motorize this myself. And so I found a project online, primarily on printables.com, that a guy did motorize a 8-inch version of this mount using some 3D printed stuff that he kind of reworked some of the parts from a different project that somebody motorized, a different Dobsonian. Long story short, the project I'm using is kind of a mix between a few different projects, but ultimately it's using OnstepX, and it's using some 3D printed parts. So I'm gonna show you kind of my inventory of the parts that I've been 3D printing. Got my 3D printer back here. I've been 3D printing parts and acquiring parts. I've been buying different things, and I've just about got everything I need to actually motorize this at this point. I do have some experience with using OnstepX, but this will be the first time I would have to put it in different gear ratios and really kind of set it up. The other system that I have, OnstepX, it was just kind of a bolt-on. I just bought it, I bolted it on my EQ mount, and it just works right out of the box. So this will be a little bit more setup. So yeah, guys, let's get to it. I'm gonna show you the different parts that's gonna be needed to make this possible, and then we're gonna go from there. I'm gonna take a moment to go over the different components that you will either have to 3D print, get someone else to 3D print, or to buy them. And everything that you buy, I'm gonna try to have links in the description. So yeah, I'm gonna do my best to link everything that is available. So I'm gonna kind of start with the parts that are the most important. And well, I don't know if I can say most important, but kind of most unique. So starting with this piece right here. So this is a large 3D piece, and it has the little gearing in here, so you can put a timing belt on. And I don't have my calipers handy, but this is just under 10 millimeters. So you can use a 9mm belt on it. Now I did painstakingly remix this, and I made it much bigger for 14mm belt, but turns out that's really not very standard, because once they're that wide, the gearing kind of gets larger. So this is like 2 mil. It either go 3 mil or 5 mils on the timing belt. So if this ends up like skipping gears and it ends up not working, I might have to figure something else out. But guys, it's this curvature that fits around the 10-inch tube that I have. The other project that I was following, the guy had a 8-inch tube, so this curvature was a little different. So I had to find this project, this file out of a different project. So I'll link to both projects. And yeah, so I printed all these parts out of PETG, which is it's stronger and most importantly, heat resistant. You don't want to like leave this in your car and you come back and all your parts are melted and misshapen. So, you know, PETG has a much more resistance to heat. So that's why we did that. So like I said, guys, like this is definitely a part that you can't just buy somewhere. So, but I honestly believe this is the only thing that you would absolutely have to print. So with that in mind, you could have someone else print this for you, or, you know, find an online, you know, print shop or something, or Etsy store, have them print it and just send it to you. Because I think everything else, you can either find a ready-made product or, yeah, I think you can just find a ready-made product. Also, I printed that other piece at, I think 55% infill. Now this, I printed at 80% infill, and this thing is heavy, and it took like 18 hours to print. But kind of the same deal. Now I did get this off the original project, but you see this is actually much wider, but even though it's much wider, I think this is about 14 mils in height. We still can only put a 9 mil belt, because that's just how thick they make them, unless I'm just not aware of where to find thicker belts. But anyway, guys, I think this part, I don't think it too much matters that it is exact this diameter. I think you can buy something somewhere that's very much like this that'll serve the same purpose, because essentially this is going to be bolted to the base, and you'll have the motor off to the side, and when the motor turns, it'll turn the base. It's handy if you have a 3D printer to just print you one, but I think you can find something like this. So those two parts, I would say you're really not getting away from 3D printing those. But here are some other 3D printed parts that I don't think is 100% necessary, but it does make it handy. So I'm just gonna kind of show all these together. So like this piece, this is used to splice the belt together, which I don't really know how that's gonna work, if the belt has to go all the way around, how is this gonna stay on there? But what I plan to do, eyebolt belt that's just on a roll. I plan on like making like temporary splices and like super gluing it together, figuring out my exact measurements, and then going to some online store and finding ready-made belts that don't have to be spliced, that's just a full made belt of my dimensions, and then buy those and replace my temporary. So that's, but this is the 9mm GT 2 mil type of timing belt is what we have here. So like I said, these are the little splice pieces. This piece, and like this is like a centering ring for the Lazy Susan. And this is something that's part of the, you know, deal to allow you to turn the base. So this is part of that. This is part of that, as well as this. I think it's one more piece somewhere. Maybe I've misplaced it. So that's all of those. I just don't think, I think it's handy to have this. I don't think it's 100% necessary. I think you can just get your Lazy Susan and then center it using other means, you know, measuring and different stuff. And I think you would be able to still use the Lazy Susan without this stuff. But as you can see, this fits exactly inside of here, which is pretty neat. I mean, that's really handy. Look at that. Fits directly in there. And that's actually the first time I put it in there, so I didn't actually know. The link to this, of course I will put it, I got this on Amazon. Now this Lazy Susan, it's one of those Lazy Susan, it has like a 300-pound weight capacity. It's all ball bearings down here. And this is kind of made for, you know, those like cabinets, the different shelves that, you know, you can move back and forth and have like knickknacks and things on there, or maybe in a store or something. But that's what this Lazy Susan really is. So this isn't just like a spice rack kind of a deal. This is for like a cabinet. So this is like pieces to help hold that belt together. Like I said, I only plan on doing this temporarily. I plan on getting solid belts. Now I did print these, and you can easily buy these. These are just, you know, your pulley, with your timed, like your little splines on there. I believe this is like 15 teeth or 20 teeth, but I bought this one, and this is 40, I believe. Does it say? Not sure, but this is 40. So the thinking behind it is metal is better than, you know, 3D printed plastic. These didn't cost that much. I think I paid like $4 or $5 for the pair. And what it is, for every one turn that these will turn, it will turn the belt more, because this has twice as many teeth as this. So one turn over here will be twice the travel that you can get with one turn here. Now, for my side to side motion, I don't think the motors will work that hard to move this from side to side. I think it's gonna be the up and down motion that's gonna be a lot. So maybe these will work for my motors from the side to side, but maybe not up and down. So I might have to use this up and down, or I might buy a metal one that matches this, because I would really hate for something to snap when I've gone to a dark site and did everything that I need to do, and you know, it could go bad, and I don't want that. But like I said, I will link these as well in the description. These are yet to know if these will work or not, but I think they will. I'm gonna show you the motors. Oh shit. And hit my damn head. This is the motors. Now, these were in the project that I found on printables.com. This is what that guy used. So this is a NEMA 17 motor. Now, I've done the research. They say the NEMA 23s are stronger than the 17s. But this has a very extreme kind of gear ratio. This has a 100-to-1 gear ratio. So what that means, for every 100 turns of this motor, we're only gonna get one turn of that shaft. So this motor is gonna have to go fast to get this to move. Now, I saw on the project, it was like some comments on there, and somebody was saying, I think the guy who put it up said that he could get 2 degrees per second. And that's not bad. You know, 3 degrees per second is kind of better. But 2 degrees isn't bad, but I wonder how loud this is gonna be. Is this thing gonna have to be turning at like 600 RPMs to get 2 degrees? And then maybe it's gonna be super loud. So if I go to a star party, is that gonna be, you know, really loud like that? I really have no idea. But I did look at the torque ratings, and the torque rating for this, it has 2 ratings. It has holding torque, and it has, you know, actually moving torque. So holding torque is gonna be important, because if the telescope is, you know, tilted up like this, and I got a camera or big eyepieces and stuff, I don't want that to tilt down and just fall. So it needs to have a very good holding torque. But then also, if that telescope is like this, I do need the motor to be able to bring that thing up like that. So I did compare this to different NEMA 23s, And as far as the ones that I found, it had a stronger torque both ways. So this is a very high torque but low speed motor. And so we'll see how that's gonna go. Now on that 3D printing site on Printables, they have 3D brackets, but these was like $4 or $5 or something like that. And maybe they was $6 or $7. Actually, I think they were like $7. So they were a little bit expensive, but I do really just like the idea of having metal, you know, because then that way I can get the screws in there. I can tighten them down nice and tight. That I can bolt this up to the wood, and this is gonna be really good. And so the 3D printed stuff will probably work. I would just rather have less 3D printed parts if I can help it. So, oh yeah, these motors, I think they were like $45 a piece. So they're kind of expensive as far as NEMA 17 motors go. But the thing that makes this is these this geared planetary gearbox. So this is a planetary gearbox right here that gives you that 100-to-1 gear ratio. All right guys, so this is the physics board. Now I bought this from on the Printable site, the guy who put that post up, he linked to the guy that I got this from. And I believe that he has a business called like Gray Digital Arts. And he more or less puts these boards together, and he pre-installs OnStep on here. So OnStep is already on here. And this is essentially everything I'm gonna need to run OnStep, and it's gonna power my motors and everything like that. He also gives you these little heat sinks to put on these little chips. Turn this back on. So it's heat sinks to put on these little chips to keep, you know, all that good. He does send it out with these RJ45 connectors, you know, just like regular Ethernet. I do have Ethernet cable, and I could, you know, build the cables custom to length, but I'm not gonna go with those. I'm gonna go with something else. Where are they? So for my connectors, I'm actually going to use these. I believe they're referred to as airplane connectors. So I'll have one end on the box, and then you plug in like this. So once that goes in there, and then you can screw that on for a nice tight connection. So to go with these, I've got my 4-strand wire. So I'm gonna be able to make up my lengths of cables custom to what I need, so I can have it nice and neat and ran just the way I want it. So I'm gonna have to solder these up and use heat shrink and everything, but that's fine. And I actually prefer that over this. So let me show you guys. Let me see if I can find. So guys, this is the 3D, this is the box that's originally with that project on Printables. And I didn't like this box at all. And I printed this with my old 3D printer. It didn't do too good of a job, but it's actually decent. I could have used the heat gun and cleaned this up. But I just didn't like this box at all. It just wasn't very good. So let me show you what the box I actually went with. So I ended up with this box. So I just printed this out, and then I use a paint marker and put that on there, but I think it looks pretty slick. This antenna, it came with this. I got this off from Gray Matter, or Gray Digital Art. Man, forgive me if I'm messing that up. Let me see. I don't think it's written on here. I'll put the name, and it'll definitely be linked. Definitely be linked. So this antenna came with this. And then it has the holes to use these, and that's one of the reasons why I went with these, because I like this box, and that's going to give a very professional look, and I like that. I bought these. I think these are called P4 power connectors, but this will just simply go in there like that, and then I can give power to this box. Link in the description for these as well. And then lastly, for my actual power switch, I already had these. I can't remember what I originally bought these for. I think from some car audio stuff, you know, I got little beats in my trunk, you know what I'm saying? So I think I had these to turn on my remote switch for my amp in the trunk. So this is a little bit too big for here, but I'm just gonna use a stepper bit and make that bigger, and then that way I can just turn these on, boom, boom, and we'll be good to go on that. So I'll link these in the description, but some other people are using these other ones that's actually of this diameter, and they're like the little push buttons. You can push it in, press it out, you know. So that's actually everything, guys. That is all the parts that I'm gonna need. The only thing I didn't put up, because I don't have them yet, this is gonna be an M12. There's a bolt, you need a 90mm bolt, that's M12, and then the corresponding nut to go here as well as here. So, and then they also outlined some screws to buy, like an assorted box of screws. Let me show you those. So these are the assorted screws or bolts, nuts and bolts that I bought for this project. So I will link these as well. So there you have it for this video. This is the video just pretty much explaining the project and what I'm doing it and how I'm doing it. Video number 2 is gonna be me mostly doing the work and actually getting all that equipment and electronics into this telescope. And then video 3 is gonna be the setup. That'll be the software side of things. So that's all I've got.
Wait, actually, I need to get this video.
So that's all I got for this video. If you guys want to see the rest of this process, don't forget to like and subscribe, turn on the bell, because I'm definitely going to be doing this project and getting it out. Peace.